It's always fun to catch up with Jason Fitz from Spain and Fitz on 97.3 ESPN. Sports Bash brought to you by J.C. Penney. The mystery sale is back just in time for Easter. Shop in store, and you can save even more with J.C. Penney's coupon giveaway. Visit jcpenney.com for more details on the mystery sale. All right, there he is. If you're watching the show live at 97.3ESPN.com, Jay Fitz is with us, Spain and Fitz, and of course he, like all guys, appears via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Good to see you, man. How you been?
I'm doing great. And, you talk about the draft. I'm already pumped. I'm excited. It's like, for me, it's my favorite event of the year. When you're a fan of a team that stinks every single year, like the draft becomes your Super Bowl. And in this world, like everybody's going to feel like their team's a winner or a loser the last weekend in April. So I'm already doing all the prep work, going to be hosting some shows, and I'm already excited for it.
So give me your theory or your thoughts on these teams that are making these monster trades, essentially trades up to, I guess, to land quarterbacks, right? I mean, if you're San Francisco and you're moving from 12 to 3, I would imagine you're doing so to get a quarterback. You don't move from 12 to 3 just to take a linebacker.
Right. No, you're 1,000% right. You got to be moving up to get. You've got to believe that the third best quarterback is worth giving up your future for. Think about that statement. I mean, as Field Yates has tweeted out, and we've talked about before, every single quarterback drafted by their team in the first round from 2016, I think it was, to 6-year period there. None of them are left on their team, right? So this isn't an exact science, and you're giving up your future to go after one of these guys. So they've got to have a lot of belief in it. That being said, I don't have a problem with the strategy of, hey, our whole roster looks really good. We believe that Jimmy G isn't the long-term answer, but he can be good enough for right now. We'll keep Jimmy G for a year, and we'll let whoever this kid is that comes in develop into that guy. I just don't know that outside of Trevor Lawrence, I see any of these guys as such a surefire bet that I'd bank my future on.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of, without hindsight, okay, like I would trade. The Eagles have 3 picks next year in the first round. I could say I would trade those picks, and if you're going to give me Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson's a little murky right now with what's going on in that situation. But you take that out, I would give up 3 picks for that. But I'm not trading 3 picks for an unknown. I feel like this ghost of everybody thinks the next guy is going to be Tom Brady. It is just ruins these franchises. I mean, like, I'm not giving up 3 first-round picks just for the chance to take Mac Jones.
No, and realistically, when you take a quarterback at the top of the draft, you are starting a 4-year clock, right? So if you're wrong, you've set your organization back at least 4 years. You're going to end up with a coach and a GM that likely get fired, and from it, you're going to go right back into rebuilding mode. That's the never-ending cycle that comes with it. That's why I would always take proof of concept at the quarterback position. I mean, at some point that has to matter. And even when we get into the draft, it has to matter. Like, proof of concept is a very simple phrase that I think is getting lost in some of this conversation. Like, I was traveling with Game Day, and last year we didn't travel, but the year before we did. We went to North. This is going to be the next number 1 pick in the draft. And for context, there were people saying that about Carson Wentz long before he was a top pick, right? So the hype train is suddenly rolling on Trey Lance, and it makes so little sense to me when you've got Justin Fields, who does have a body of work you can analyze and look at and say, okay, we've seen him against real defenses. I don't care about throwing against Casper the Friendly Ghost. Against real defenses, we've seen what these guys can do. So organizations getting their own way at the quarterback position every stinking year.
Now, here locally, the Eagles were 6. They traded back to 12, and they got a pick in next year's draft, a first-rounder. They could potentially have 3 first-round picks if Carson Wentz plays 75% of the snaps. So, from the outside looking in, the people here hate Howie Roseman so much, it doesn't matter if he collected 10 picks in next year's draft because they say he'll mess them up anyway. But from the outside looking in, do you say that's a home run decision by the Eagles?
That is home run doing cartwheels up and down the streets. Look, at 12, you're still going to have the opportunity to get a really good prospect that can come in and play, right? But the other side of it is there are no regular scouting days. There's no regular team meetings with these players. There's no opportunity to go out and see these guys. Plus, opt-outs and the way they impact this year's draft. I mean, how are we supposed to understand what we're looking at with somebody like, Rousseau out of Miami that opted out? Great pass rusher when he played, but we have no idea what the last year did to him. If I ran an NFL franchise, my only goal would be how can I reduce my risk this year and get myself more capital next year in a year that likely will give me more of a regular college football season to judge off of and more of a regular draft process to actually get in and poke and prod these guys with my medical guys and get in and have more comfort with who I'm drafting and bringing into the building. Like, if as a Raiders fan, if you tell me that the Raiders aren't going to make a first-round pick this year, but they're going to get more equity in the future, I would absolutely celebrate that with champagne like it was a great home run pick.
Jason Fitz, Spain and Fitz. I mean, I feel like this whole 17-game schedule has not, like, been, set in yet. Like, that there hasn't been a change in the schedule since 1978. I mean, I was 1 year old. I mean, this is all we know. 8-8, 10-6, 9-7. You have these standards. It's all out of whack. As fans, were we yearning? Are we like, yes, there's another game? Or not really?
So, no, I don't think we necessarily needed it. But now that we have it, we're going to love it. Like, that's the other side of it. You know, I mean, when you start looking at a 17th game, realistically, think about the way Sundays feel. Like, you just told me that the NFL season is going to go one extra Sunday, that we're going to have one less preseason game to worry about in general, but we're also going to get a little bit more football in this process. Yeah, I'll take that all day long. I mean, the only problem is that there are bad teams, and how these bad teams navigate through the end of longer seasons, that's going to be a pain in the butt. But this mindset of, man, can we just finish 8-8? Now it's, can we finish 9-8? That's going to give us a real shot at the playoffs. It's going to feel different. And realistically, did we need it? No. Did we crave it? No. But now that we've had it, man, it's going to be like a drug, and we will inject it into our veins.
I'm just thinking about watching that last Eagles game that they essentially threw, and then thinking, I got to do this again next week. I mean, having one more of them. And by the way, this year, it's Eagles-Jets as the week 18 game, I believe, is what they said. This last crossover game, they're going to throw it at the end of the schedule, I think is what they're doing. So that could be a painful watch.
Yeah, I mean, you're not talking about necessarily great matchups, but the flip side of it is we'll get Bears-Raiders, right? Like Sarah and I were talking about it on air, our two teams taking each other on, but you get Khalil Mack taking on John Gruden. Like, we'll find reasons to hype up this 17th week. And, you know, the other side of it comes, like, for every bad team, there's going to be another situation like we had where you've got, they might be a bad Washington football team, but they went into the last week of the season having an opportunity to make the playoffs, right? Like, you think back to that moment, we all forget. We'll take more of that for the last 2 weeks of the year. Absolutely. The biggest gripe people are going to have is about stats. And I just got to be honest. I don't care. I don't care how many yards a quarterback throws for. I don't care how many touchdowns they're thrown for. I care whether or not my favorite football team wins. This isn't the NBA. Like, we care less about personal stats in the NFL. So I don't think it's as big a deal.
ESPN's Jason Fitz. Spain and Fitz airs at 7 o'clock on 97.3 ESPN. Opening day is tomorrow. Do you have any interest?
Yeah, no. I'll be honest. Tonight on Spain and Fitz, we're going to be talking a lot about baseball, but I'm going to be really transparent with people. Like, catch me up. The way everything is gone this year, I feel like I'm still in the thrones of enjoying whatever this March Madness tournament is. Like, we're just suddenly switching gears. Like, I'm not ready for the marathon. And I get it. I know baseball enthusiasts are in love with it and they want it. And I get that there are some really good stories this year in Major League Baseball. And there's some young personalities that are out there that are worth watching. Like, the sport has everything it needs. I just don't know. You know, I would say the same thing that I'd say about the NBA. Like, the interest level in the NBA hyping up on Christmas Day is real. Whether mega diehards love it or not, that's real. I think for Major League Baseball, just accepting that, okay, your season can start today, but we're not going to care until we're sitting outside with the feet up having a beer and eating, you know, a hot dog in a stadium. Like, that's real. Until we get to summer, I don't think it really kicks in.
I guess they're going to have fans back. I know in Philly about 9,000 fans will be in the stadium tomorrow for opening day, Phillies and Braves. NCAA Tournament. Now, the ratings, I'm surprised. I thought the ratings were going to stink this year. I thought, like, just the way sports have gone, the ratings have actually been decent. But I got to ask you, is the men's college basketball tournament the most overcoached thing ever? It is unbelievable. They overcoach every tick of that shot clock.
You are I hadn't really thought of it, and that is the best take I've heard all day. I mean, you are absolutely right. Like, it feels like in this moment, you know, again, I watch too many food shows, right? I feel a little bit like the NCAA tournament has become Hell's Kitchen. I just got one guy yelling at a lot of capable chefs and presuming that nobody knows how to cook anymore. Like, the level of basketball IQ by the time you get to college basketball with the way AAU has changed is much smarter than we give it credit for. I don't know why when we get especially into the last 5 minutes of a college basketball game, things screeches
Oh.
to a halt. I mean, it's brutal.
I mean, Mick Cronin last night and Juwan Howard might as well crossed the court, grabbed the guy by his jersey, and pulled him to where he actually wanted him on the floor. It's like, all right, enough already. Let these guys just, I mean, it's unbelievable. But we're down to the wire here. Gonzaga could be the first team since, 76 that it goes undefeated all the way through. If that happens with this season, will they be recognized as this great college basketball, story, history, look back at this team and say, like they do that Indiana team?
They should, but I don't think it'll happen. To be real,
they have been Gonzaga. I was talking about this today. I was in college at the time, so I'm in West Virginia, and Gonzaga, who the heck are they? This is the 90s. They've been around since they made that first run in the 90s, and they have been around every year since.
And it's funny you mention that because we're the same age, right? And so there's this moment where I've talked to some of the younger guys that work on Spain and Fitz sometimes. I'm like, you guys realize that there was a period where they were sort of a Cinderella, and people don't remember that unless you grew up watching that era of March Madness. There was a period where we're like, oh, Gonzaga, that's cute. Now they are a perennial basketball powerhouse, right? But they don't carry the brand recognition that the Dukes and Kentuckys carry, and I don't know what changes that because they've got the pro caliber players on this team. They've got a couple of guys that will play in the NBA or at least have a good shot at it. They've got the consistency of being where they are. And they're undefeated, and they're doing it in they make it look easy, and they kill everybody along the way. What else do we want? So I think absolutely Houston history should look back at this and say, hey, this is incredibly special, especially I think more difficult in a COVID year. But unfortunately, we would do that if it was Duke or Kentucky or North Carolina on their jersey. We won't do that for Gonzaga. And I don't know what it's going to take to change.
Yeah, because the Butlers, they kind of came and then went. They hung in there. Gonzaga has stood the test of time. They are now perennially there. They've been a 1 seed, so they're interesting. You guys are doing pandemic madness. I'm going to throw just a little curveball at you because I'm going to do this. TLC show versus HGTV show because no guy wants to ever admit they're watching them, but I know you are and I am.
Oh, yeah. No. So the TLC shows are definitely trashier, right? So the HGTV show, I feel like I get into these modes where the weather's starting to turn nicer and suddenly I'm like, I'm going to do something outside. So I'll watch HGTV. But we know that throughout the course of the year, I'm far more likely to go TLC show. So, yeah, I'll take any of the trash TLC
Right.
shows.
So you got 1,000-pound sisters versus Flip or Flop. That doesn't sound very good.
Every time I'd say I'm not going to watch 1,000-Pound Sisters, I end up 4 hours later, and I'm like, what are they doing? How do they get this under control? So,
right. My 600-pound life versus my feet are killing me.
Yeah, 600-pound life. I mean, come on. You've got me on all of these. I feel like you're watching me in my house. Watching. The only thing that, let's admit that Bravo kills all of them, but that's only because of Below Deck. Below Deck is my guilty TV pleasure that the world needs to really become infatuated with.
All right, that continues the pandemic madness. You can check him out at Jason Fitz on Twitter. Spain and Fitz airs at 7 o'clock on 97.3 ESPN, and he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Jay Fitz, take care, man.
Have a great week, my friend.